In the heart of Rome, beneath the marble arches and the scent of burning incense, there existed a world the poets never dared to write about. By daylight, the streets shimmered with gold. Merchants, senators, and nobles walking side by side. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, another Rome awakened. A city of whispers, silk, and sin. Behind every curtain of red-hung temptation for sale, slaves displayed like treasures, bodies traded as currency. Even virtue had a price, and pleasure an empire of its own. The market of desire was not built of stone and marble, but of human weakness. Every glance, every sigh, every forbidden act echoed through the alleys, feeding the beast that Rome had become. This was not the empire of heroes and gods. This was the empire of desire, rotting from within. Behind the marble walls of the imperial palace, where gold shimmered brighter than the sun, desire ruled like a tyrant. The emperors of Rome, worshipped as gods, indulged in fantasies that defied imagination. For them, the empire was not enough. Even morality had to kneel. Banquets turned into carnivals of excess. Wine poured endlessly, masks hid faces, and shame was banished from the halls. In these chambers, loyalty was bought with pleasure, and betrayal was sealed with a kiss. Servants whispered of secret rituals, of rulers who feared no divine punishment, because they believed themselves divine. Yet behind every smile, shadows lingered. Power and lust danced together until both became indistinguishable. And as the moon hung over the city, the empire's heart pulsed not with honor, but with hunger. Beyond the palace gates, the empire's real economy thrived. An empire not of trade and conquest, but of flesh. The slave markets of Rome pulsed with noise and despair. Men, women, even children, branded, priced, and displayed like livestock beneath the blazing sun. Their tears were met with laughter, their silence sold for silver. Here, beauty was a weapon, and innocence, a luxury no one could afford. Senators bargained for servants. Generals purchased pleasure. For every marble statue raised in glory, 100 broken souls were buried beneath its foundation. And yet, the crowd kept cheering, blinded by their own comfort. In the heart of civilization, humanity was the cheapest thing to buy. This was Rome's hidden truth, a paradise built on the suffering of the unseen. Asterisk, when the moon rose above the marble towers of Rome, the city shed its armor of virtue. The festivals began, grand celebrations that stretched for days, where wine flowed like rivers and music drowned the conscience of an empire. Senators, soldiers, slaves, all became equals in sin. Masks covered their faces, but not their hunger. The streets blazed with torchlight as dancers spun in wild abandon. Their movements a reflection of the empire's heart, rhythmic, beautiful, yet dangerously hollow. In these nights, even the gods were forgotten. Altars once meant for offerings became stages for indulgence. The air was heavy with perfume and sweat, laughter and screams blending into one. It was said that Rome's festivals could make the heavens blush, where pleasure became worship and worship became mockery. Beneath the marble colonnades, philosophers spoke of virtue while their hands trembled with desire. The poets wrote of freedom while chained to their own vices. And amid the endless celebration, no one noticed the tremor, the faint crack in the foundation of an empire that believed it could never fall. The festivals of excess were not merely nights of pleasure, they were omens. Every cheer that echoed through the streets was a prophecy that the gods would soon demand payment for every drop of forbidden joy. Asterisk. Asterisk in the empire's palaces, beauty was both a crown and a curse. Women adorned in silk walked the corridors of power, some born to it, others bound to it. Their eyes shimmered with gold dust, yet behind every glance lay the weight of 1,000 silences. Rome worshipped beauty, but it was a cruel god, one that demanded obedience, not admiration. The noble women of the Senate's elite were paraded like trophies, their worth measured by the men who possessed them. Yet beneath their jeweled smiles, fear lingered. fear of losing favor, fear of becoming invisible in a world ruled by appetite. In darker halls, the enslaved shared the same fate, though their chains were made of iron, not silk. Their names were forgotten, their stories erased, yet their pain was carved into the walls of Rome itself. Some whispered of rebellion, of women who refused to bow, poets, priestesses, and lovers who challenged the empire's hunger. Their defiance was fleeting, their punishment eternal. For in Rome, a woman's body was not her own. It belonged to the spectacle, to power, to the illusion of control. And as dawn broke over the Tiber, the silk curtains swayed in the wind, delicate, beautiful, and utterly silent. The empire stirred again, blind to the truth that its greatest strength was also its deepest wound. Asterisk. Asterisk in the heart of Rome stood the Colosseum, a monument not to courage, but to control. Its stones had seen more blood than the battlefields that built the empire. Thousands gathered beneath the scorching sun, cheering not for victory, but for death. Here, cruelty was art, and pain was currency. The crowd demanded spectacle, and the empire delivered. Gladiators, once proud soldiers, now fought for survival. Their honor traded for the fleeting roar of the mob. The sand beneath them drank every drop of their story, turning crimson as the drums echoed across the marble stands. Lions were unleashed, chains were broken, and mercy was forgotten. The emperor smiled, knowing the people's hunger for violence kept their eyes away from the rot beneath his throne. Yet in those final moments, when blade met flesh and silence fell before the scream, a truth flickered. The empire that once conquered the world was now devouring itself for amusement. Its greatness reduced to theater, its glory drowned in applause. As dusk settled over the arena, the bodies were dragged away, and the scent of iron lingered in the air. The people left satisfied, their hearts empty but entertained. And above it all, the gods watched in silence as Rome's soul crumbled, one cheer at a time. Asterisk. Asterisk, there was a time when Rome's name meant honor, when its legions marched for glory, not greed. But that Rome had faded, its virtues buried beneath marble palaces and golden lies. The empire still glittered beneath the sun, yet its heart was hollow, pulsing with vanity and desire. In the Senate, men who once spoke of justice now traded integrity for favor. Statues of gods stood tall in the temples, but faith had withered, replaced by superstition, indulgence, and fear. The fires of ambition burned too brightly, consuming everything noble that once defined them. The citizens followed suit. Loyalty was sold, trust betrayed, and love reduced to transaction. The streets that once echoed with triumph now murmured with suspicion. Artists painted beauty while starving in silence. Philosophers preached morality while drowning in doubt. Even the air felt heavier, thick with decadence, perfumed with decay. And yet, beneath the silence, a whisper grew that no empire, no matter how divine it seemed, could escape the weight of its own corruption. The marble began to crack, unseen but inevitable. Rome's fall would not begin with a sword, but with a sigh. Asterisk. Asterisk, the empire still glittered, its streets paved with marble, its palaces crowned with gold. But beneath the shimmer lay something hollow, a silence that no song could fill. The people walked through corridors of splendor, blind to the cracks forming beneath their feet. What had once been the pride of civilization had become its own monument to excess. The aqueducts still carried water, the markets still bustled, and the senators still raised their goblets high. But the spirit that built Rome had long vanished. What remained was imitation, hollow rituals, and fading glory. The statues that once inspired awe now seemed to weep dust. Every feast, every celebration, was a desperate attempt to forget that the empire was dying. Beyond the city walls, the world stirred. Barbarians watched, waiting. The empire that had once tamed the world could no longer tame itself. And as the night fell over the Tiber, the moonlight revealed the truth. Rome was not a city of gods, but a graveyard dressed in gold. The laughter in the halls turned to echoes, the wine soured, and the marble floors began to crumble. Rome still stood, but only in form. Its soul had already turned to dust. Asterisk. Every empire is built on a promise, and Rome had broken them all. The gods it once worshipped had turned their gaze away. The virtues it once praised had become relics of memory. The empire stood tall, yet every stone trembled under the weight of its own corruption. What began as triumph had decayed into tragedy. The signs were everywhere. The treasury bled gold faster than conquest could replenish it. The legions, once symbols of discipline, now fought more for coin than country. Famine swept through the provinces, while the Senate feasted beneath ceilings painted with heaven's deceit. The people murmured prayers, but their gods no longer listened. Outside the walls, shadows gathered. Tribes Rome once mocked now marched with vengeance in their eyes. Inside, plague crept through alleys and palaces alike, reminding all that even emperors bleed the same. The empire that ruled the world could not rule its own hunger for power. And so the price was paid, not in gold but in silence. Cities burned, statues fell. The eternal empire learned that no glory is eternal when built on the suffering of men. The Lion of Rome roared one last time, before the echo faded into dust. Every empire is built on a promise, and Rome had broken them all. The gods it once worshipped had turned their gaze away. The virtues it once praised had become relics of memory. The empire stood tall, yet every stone trembled under the weight of its own corruption. What began as triumph had decayed into tragedy. The signs were everywhere. The treasury bled gold faster than conquest could replenish it. The legions, once symbols of discipline, now fought more for coin than country. Famine swept through the provinces, while the Senate feasted beneath ceilings painted with heaven's deceit. The people murmured prayers, but their gods no longer listened. Outside the walls, shadows gathered. Tribes Rome once mocked now marched with vengeance in their eyes. Inside, plague crept through alleys and palaces alike, reminding all that even emperors bleed the same. The empire that ruled the world could not rule its own hunger for power. And so the price was paid, not in gold but in silence. Cities burned, statues fell. The eternal empire learned that no glory is eternal when built on the suffering of men. The Lion of Rome roared one last time, before the echo faded into dust. Centuries have passed, yet the whispers of Rome still drift through time, carried by the wind that sighs through its broken columns. The empire that once ruled the known world lies silent now, its triumphs reduced to dust, its sins carved deep into the stones that remain. The echoes of laughter, of speeches, of prayers, all have turned into a single, aching memory of what was lost. The marble statues stand fractured, their faces eroded, but their eyes seem to remember. They remember the glory, the blood, the betrayal. They remember how men sought to play gods, and how gods fell silent. In every ruin, there lingers a question that no empire has ever answered. How much can power take before it destroys itself? The sun sets over the fallen forum, and shadows reclaim the marble. Yet amid the decay, a faint glimmer endures, a lesson carved in ruin. Greatness without virtue is doomed to perish. And though Rome's empire is gone, its warning remains eternal. Empires rise, empires fall, but the echoes of their choices, the voices of the forgotten, will always haunt the corridors of time.